Hey, how's it going?
All right.
Hey, how's it going? I need some feedback. I get a little bit of feedback. It's early in the morning. I know everybody's tired from the weekend. Can I get a little bit of feedback? My name is DJ Darnell, DJ Brown. Everybody warmly calls me DJ. So I want to tell you about Simply Foster. This is a little bit of background about myself. I am a third generation foster care parent. My grandfather was a foster care parent. My father was a foster care parent. So I know intimately well the issues that are going on in the system. And I want to begin our time talking to you about a special kid, a kid named Juan. He's one of my kids that I had. He's super awesome. He loves superheroes. And just like any superheroes, his biggest nemesis was he was afraid of the dark. So one night, he was like, okay, we're gonna walk up to the room, we're gonna conquer the dark. I was behind him the whole time, coaching him, saying, come on kid, you got it, you got it. And once we got up to the top of the stairs, we celebrated. A week later, he left our home with a 2-hour notice and a phone call. This story shows the emotional inequities that are in the foster care system. Now, I don't know how much you know about the foster care system, but the way the system goes is that a child is being reported through a hotline, being investigated. An agency takes over the case and is responsible for the overall care of the child. These caseworkers are super overloaded, and they have an 80% turnover rate within the first 2 years, 80%. They place them with day-to-day caregivers, foster care parents, kinship placements, parents, and they have a 60% turnover in the first 2 years. So the parent is responsible for day-to-day care, and then we have specialized care, and these are your doctors, your physicians, your psychologists. And recently in Missouri, they have been sued for over-medicating foster care children. Last year, multi-million-dollar suit. These inequities are not isolated to only Missouri. These experiences are happening to over 400,000 children every single day that are in care. So, why Simply Foster? Our mission at Simply Foster is to accelerating the care of kids from hard places and the people that support them by using the power of technology. What does that look like practically? What are we making? We use familiar, automated messaging interventions. The reason that we do this is if you look at your phones, if you look at your text messages, most likely you have like 1 or 2 maybe unopened text messages. How many emails do you have that are unopened? How many notifications do you have that are unopened? Tons. This pathway of communication has already been used in the healthcare space and is the most effective, scalable way of communication. We do this by the process of 2 processes. A pulse, meaning we're keeping a tracking of data on the individual foster care family so that the caseworker can see and we can filter out and have automatic care for the foster care family. And open, we keep track of open licenses and homes so we can quickly place children into homes that is fit for the child so we can reduce turnover. Also, one of the issues is that foster care is really, really archaic. And just a background situation with Wayne, his caseworker came to my home with a folder full of paper that she wrote her notes on. And this lack of data that's centralized in a passport is how they are able to over-medicate children because they don't have accurate data in one centralized place. So, what does this mean for our stakeholders that I showed you before? Our solution automatically supports caregivers through text messages, like I said. The caregivers can get day-to-day data to the specialized caregivers so that they can prevent over-medication. And the specialized caregivers have adequate interventions for the agency so that they can help support kids. With this, we can reduce the turnover of caregivers, we can reduce the turnover of agencies, and we can reduce the over-medication of children so that children can have an environment to heal. Who are we? Who are the team? Like, more so than what we do, I said we are 3 passionate individuals who have a stakehold in the foster care system. Myself, I told you I was third generation foster care parent. Simon Yost, he's a foster adoptive parent. He's also, I call him our baby genius, he's also our tech guru. He's also an I-10 mentor. And also Robert Peters, who our methods based off of his research at the Brown School. I love this quote because it's kind of like the lifeblood of what we do. And there can be no keener revelations of a society's soul than the way it treats its children. I want that to resonate for a minute. The mark of a society is not based off its innovations, it's based on the way it treats its most marginalized. And in our culture, the most marginalized people group are our children. I'm going on a different tangent, but the opioid crisis. The opioid crisis has pushed foster care into a caregiver crisis because when parents overdose, when parents have addictions, the children are the ones who suffer. This is a campaign that we have going on right now. This is for the month of December 22. This is based off the fact that 22 kids a month in Missouri are being put in the foster care system. And there are 22 days till Christmas from Giving Tuesday. And we want to raise funds to support 22,000 families so that we can give this technology for $10 a month so that we can reduce the turnover, we can support families, we can collect data, and we can see how can we truly systematically change the foster care system. Any questions?
Hey, thanks, DJ. Great presentation. And questions, please wait for the microphone here.
Not a question, just some information. I think there's 2 people I'd love to introduce you to. One is sitting behind me, which is Benjamin. I think he has some very interesting information for you. And I think you should talk with Jana with Provider Pool. I think you can get a lot of information from both of them.
Great. Appreciate that.
So help me connect the dots. So in the case example you gave at the beginning, how would your platform have not caused this turnover? Yeah, help me understand how your platform solves that initial problem you mentioned.
Gotcha. Sorry about that. The way the platform supports this individual is that, so in that individual case, we had the lack of communication is one of the main issues in the foster care system. So with the 2-hour notice, we weren't able to prepare him for his transition to a different home. And also, they didn't give us accurate information about the case because they didn't have accurate data on the case of when this cow was leaving. So if we can, the premise is that we provide automated accurate communication with accurate data, then we can have stable placements and we can have stable transitions. Therefore, we can have more emotional equity for the children. That make sense?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Hi, great presentation. One of the quick tidbits just to bounce off of James was, are you familiar with the Meharry Medical Hospital down in, I think it's out of Tennessee?
I'm not.
But they've just been given a multi-million-dollar federal grant, and what they're doing with that grant to research the opioid crisis is they're deploying smaller amounts to companies, probably not unlike yours, to help them gather that research, like at the ground level. So that just might be something to check out for, a funding opportunity for your platform. And then just as a question to bounce off of, at what stage are you guys in the development process of that platform?
So we have everything lined up. We are in the midst of, like, Robert is putting together like a the product of like what the logic is going to look like, and Simon is building it out right now, and we just need funding to actually build it out full time. So like the platform, things of that nature. Also, to push this platform to be HELP compliant, it's going to be 3 times as much cost as it's going to be just to have it just high level and not HELP compliant, high security. So that's one of the reasons that we're raising funds so we can make this platform HELP compliant, so we can do all of like the passport and things of that nature.
Is this a nonprofit or is it a for-profit?
This is a nonprofit.
Nonprofit, okay. And so really even with a nonprofit, you have to think about who's going to use this. And so is your end user pretty much going to be states and the local organizations, or are you looking at this, you're gearing this more towards the foster parents?
The end user is going to be the agencies, states and agencies.
Right.
So agencies lease out contracts to individual, states lease out contracts to individual agencies. That's across the board, across the nation. So our premise is that we're going to charge a membership fee for the agency to be involved in our platform, to view the data, to use everything. And as an upgrade cost, we have Pulse Plus. So we take their information, if they want to make customizable interventions for the foster parents based off of what their needs are. And we back that up with research from the Brown School to help us like what's the most effective way to intervene in this situation.
Okay, very cool.
Great presentation, and I love the concept. Who do you need buy-in from first? Do you need the social workers to encourage agencies to use you? Do you need parents saying we need more information? And how is this going to make life easier for some of these people?
Okay, there's 2 questions in there, so I'm gonna answer the first one. We need buy-in from the agency. So we're on the verge of building a lot of partnerships with a lot of national organizations. I can't say per se right now because that's still in the works. So that's where we're going to get our buy-in from. So our mode is to partner with agencies so that we can help support them. And secondly, the other question was, remind me of the other question, I'm sorry.
How is this going to make life easier? So, is a social worker just going to be texting instead of taking notes on paper? Is there going to be a central holding place for the information?
Appreciate that question. So this platform has been used in the addiction industry where they were able to, a single nurse was able to manage over 1,000 cases. So the main reason for turnover for the caseworkers in the agencies is 80%, is that they are overloaded with cases and they can't manage it more effectively. Now, kids are not going to stop coming into care, so how can we make them work more effectively? So using text messages, we can gather data, and once we gather data, we can have a threshold of like, okay, this foster parent is starting to get burnt out based off of our pulse data that we have coming in, so you need to reach out. Or instead of them having to do a blanket, okay, I gotta make sure I reach out to everybody. It's the automatic communication takes the burden of communicating with those foster care families from them so they can intervene when it's necessary, not just because they need to. And foster care parents feel cared for. Just a personal example, I have 2 kids right now in my home, both in care, and they've been in our home for 7 months. We've heard from the caseworker 4 times. And I'm not blaming the caseworker because she's overloaded. She has 15 to 20 cases on her caseload. And this is on average of 3 kids per caseload. That's 60 kids. Something else has to happen. She has to be able to work more efficiently. My man, what's going on?
Nolan, great presentation. I'm actually a foster kid myself. So my question is, so why nonprofit? And when I think about like as a for-profit model, essentially you are a case management platform. That's your space. I mean, that's highly scalable, especially for the foster care system. And you're basically a GovTech in the GovTech space. You could be selling to different foster care agencies. So it seems like a very simple model, and it's definitely gonna be a hard sales process, but it'll be definitely worth it if you are just focusing on these governmental agencies that really help manage their caseloads better. And then you really don't even have to worry too much even about touch points with the foster care parents, unless you do like some like data input type stuff. But basically, essentially, you're just selling to the agencies, and then you can actually sell that stuff up front and just kind of demo it like with the MVP before you build all the tech and make it like more capital intensive, and just focus on sales first. So yeah, so why not private? Why not?
The reason we went back and forth with nonprofit and for-profit, nonprofit, for-profit, and the reason that we went nonprofit status is because there's a heavy load of human interaction that still needs to happen, as far as adoption that needs to happen with the agency, and what we found out from our research with different agencies, especially in Missouri and Illinois, that there's automatic skepticism when it comes to for-profit companies in the public sector, public space. So it's going to be a huge mental barrier to get past. And then also a lot of the grants in the child welfare space where we operate are only for nonprofits. So we want to be eligible for those grants.
Gotcha. I would say if you just explored looking at it from like a higher level, so like so the people who actually run, I don't know who the director is that runs actually the agencies on that higher level, and then you basically, if you become a government contractor, just go through the process of becoming a government contractor, and then you can basically, there's not that many companies that are applying for these, for actually, for these, what's it, not grants, the job for the government. So I would just like maybe explore that a little bit higher level.
Gotcha. I will appreciate that.
So, why do caseworkers enter this field, and does your platform align to those values? So, for example, an R&D person loves R&D and they enter the field because they love expansive ideas, and they try to find companies that usually work with like the love of expansive ideas. Is there a value set that these caseworkers have, and do you align or try to nurture them?
So the value set for people who enter the child welfare space is to protect kids. That's what they want to do. They want to provide a safe place for children who experience traumatic events and want to give them an environment where they can be healed. However, the current state of foster care in the child welfare system when it comes to displaced children is that they spend majority of the time doing paperwork. They spend majority of the time not doing social work, doing mundane day-to-day, filling out paperwork, crossing the I's, dotting the T's, trying to keep up with archaic ways of using data. So this actually aligns with them because it frees them to do what got them into the field in the first place, which is protect children more effectively.
I just want to get a little more granular here. And so it kind of has two aspects to it. It kind of has the passport point, which is all the kids' data. So when if I become a foster parent and I get, child Tom, I can see like, okay, well Tom's got this. He's afraid of the dark. He likes this. He doesn't like that. Blah blah blah. All that, which has been inputted by the previous parents or the foster parents, and how do they input that? So that's could you kind of expand on that a little bit?
Gotcha. Okay, so the way that they input it is when we post and send out the information, we invite them to come into the platform, and we also invite them to take notes. Also, this is inputted by the caseworker themselves.
Right.
So, and the reason that we use text messages is because that caseworkers, even the platform that they use already, they very rarely use that platform because it's so time intensive, but they text messages all day long. So if that's why we have like keys and things of that nature, so that they can input that information from their phone, and so that they don't have to worry about the hassle of it.
So everything that somebody text message, say I'm a foster parent, everything I text message into the platform goes into this repository. You guys, you have some sort of AI or something that filters it out, so it's more like characteristics of the kid as opposed to, like you were talking about, like, hey, the foster parents are getting overloaded, like there's an actionable item on the foster parent side rather than the kid side. And so your platform kind of goes through, sifts through that, organizes it, so I can just open and go, oh, if I'm...
Kids got it, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
That's what I thought you were saying. I just wanted to...
Gotcha.
Okay.
And also, we do use Pulse to regulate the foster care parent as well.
Yeah.
So we found that if you just like asking someone how they're doing,
Yeah. They're fine. Everyone's fine.
everybody's fine. Yeah. So, but like going through that day to day of like reflecting and asking intentional questions on how you're doing allows you to be mindful and regulate yourself. That way you're more emotionally regulated. Therefore, you have more elasticity in your brain to take care of these kids.
Okay.
Do you have any super innovative outside the box thoughts that, like, let's say this works and then you've got whatever you want to spend on whatever you want to do changes the world by doing what?
So like my super big picture idea with this is that I want this to be in the hands of every parent so that we can prevent children going to the care in the first place. Or if when children go into care, we can place them quickly with rather be a relative and give them the assets that they need into support placement. So my dream is to be like a tool for the Department of Health to support families, so kids won't get into the system in the first place. So traumatization won't happen in the first place, and reduce that all the way down. That's my big picture goal for this.
Are you working with the city or state Department of Health with this app?
So that's up in the air. But one of our partners works is the liaison. One of our potential partners is the liaison between the Children's Division and all the agencies in the state. So we're leveraging that relationship now and making sure to solidify that partnership now to so that we have a direct line to the government.
Is there a way for the kids to input into your platform? I mean, once they get to be 9 or 10, they've got things of their own, and sometimes they see stuff that other people don't.
So that's one of our features with the Pulse Plus is that we're going to have the kid be able to input their own information into the platform. Because we actually want to provide. Also, one of the big picture ideas providing like phones for kids. Just because the reality of it is that kids also are re-traumatized by really, really bad foster care parents. So how can we track and make sure that kids are being safe and they have a voice for themselves?
Okay, so ultimately, big picture is that every new parent gets handed this app when they take their baby home.
Yes.
And they get texted on a daily basis about how they're doing and how they're feeling and whether they've eaten in a reasonable amount of time and those kinds of things.
Yeah, and therefore you have data of how effective are your social endeavors as far as like how effective are you is WIC. How effective are these other government entities that can help, and how can we help support these families so that kids won't be traumatized? And so each kid that goes into care, it costs the United States $300,000. So it's very, very lucrative for the government to have really, really strong families for kids.
How are you gathering reports on how effective this is? I mean, how are you quantifying effectiveness?
Yes, sir. We're quantifying effectiveness by like turnover, and also caseworkers already have a matrices that they use, and we're just applying this into this channel, and then that way we have more accurate data to input.
You're a nonprofit.
Yes.
It almost seems like you should flip and get it monetized and try and sell it to either a city or state government, Department of Health, and then maybe move on to other states. I don't know.
So I one really important question I want to get out of the way. The legal validity of these documents, can this be legally verified? Does this necessarily have to be done? And the last one, please comment further on the value of a correctly raised child. Like, is that actually a metric between a foster child that is correctly fostered versus if they are incorrectly fostered? Is there, as you said, $300,000, like really, is that a bankable number or a quantifiable actual value?
Repeat that question one more time for me. That's what
The second one, yeah, so a correctly raised foster child is worth to society. Like, as you said, the government benefits from good families. So is that actually a quantified number? A good family, a good foster child is worth to society a lifetime of value of $1 million worth of labor versus an incorrectly fostered raised child is then like a cost in society of like $10 million. Is that an actual number?
Yeah, I'm going to throw a few. 75% of people who are incarcerated have been touched in the foster care system. So, people who are incarcerated are not participating in the economic exchange, or putting economic value back into the economy. That statistic alone is also the kids who are in care are more likely to be over medicated, and so for instance for personal data, every kid that came into my home, they had some medical neglect because they didn't have an adequate caregiver. So how can if we have an individual looking for certain signs, they're more likely to be misdiagnosed for certain things, therefore adding more burden to the to Medicare, therefore adding more burden to the system as a whole. So that's where that data is coming from. It's like, okay, kids who are in care, they spend more money on hospital bills because they're inaccurately diagnosed, and also the lack of participating in the economy because of 75%. Like I said, the 75% of people incarcerated have touched the foster care system, and there is a stark difference that a kid in foster care is 3 times as more likely to actually be in prison, and those things, like, the numbers speak for themselves.
Any further questions from audience there? Our typical question is, what can the community do for you? We kind of touched on that, but what should our next steps be to support you?
Yes, we try to get the word out there. We try to build a lot of trust. We have some news publications coming out here pretty soon with NPR and The American. And we just love your support. If you know anyone who has a passion for this, or if yourself has a passion for this, Give22 at simplyfoster.com/donate is what we need. We need support. December, we're raising funds, and if you believe in the power of technology and how it can systematically disrupt and change and heal situations, hope that you burden your heart to give to this cause.
Thank you, DJ. Thanks. Great presentation.